Thank you for being here for February 12th morning Dharma. If our cell phones have been silenced, why don't we go ahead and settle in for some meditation practice? Become a mountain, balanced, grounded, stable, and still. Using whichever method you find most effective. Please allow both your physical body and your mind to start to settle and to rest. And when you're ready in your own time, please go ahead and gently transition into meditation on the inner body. In the entire universe, there is nothing that exemplifies stillness more than the mountain. Balanced, grounded, and stable, the mountain simply observes silently. Snow may fall on the mountain or not. A nearby river may rise or not. A flock of migrating birds may fly past the mountain. The mountain simply observes silently in stillness. No attachment, no aversion, no praise, no blame, no speculation, no expectation. Become stillness as you silently observe sensations within your own body mountain. Please gently redirect your awareness and become aware again of this entity we've agreed to label physical body, and allow your breathing to become less shallow. Taking deeper and deeper breaths, become aware again of the garments of clothing resting on the surface of your body. Become aware again of your surroundings inside the room. Become aware again of the world that exists outside of the room. Become aware again of nearby mountains, of nearby countries, of nearby continents, of nearby planets. We dedicate all of the merit from this morning's meditation to world peace. May all beings without exception soon come to rest in complete stillness. May all beings come to rest in the peace of stillness. May all beings be free from all forms of emotional and physical suffering. May all beings without exception be happy, peaceful, contented, and free. Completely fill up your belly and lungs with air, and when you're ready, you can open your eyes and bring your meditation to an end. Thank you very much, and welcome back. So, I have the privilege of leading meditation at Aldo Leopold Middle School. I go there on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays for 20 minutes and lead a guided meditation and kind of give a little talk. And it's one of the most rewarding things I've ever done, and one of the most challenging things I've ever done. Maybe the most challenging thing. God bless the teachers. Oh my God. God bless the teachers. But something I learned early on about young people and leading meditation, it's kind of the same with us older folks, is that we love stories. We love stories. And kind of when in doubt, I tell stories. I learn to tell stories. And one of the stories that I told last week for the different homeroom classes, each of the homeroom classes, was a story from 101 Zen Stories. And lest you think a little bit of a kind of qualifier or a disclaimer, I'm not there teaching Buddhism. I talk about Zen kind of within the context of Zen culture, not really Zen Buddhism, not at all Zen Buddhism. And that's important. I kind of have never really thought about Zen in terms of Zen culture. Kind of, we all have access to Zen culture, I think, and we know what it feels like, even though we might not be able to define it. Anyways, the story I told last week was called Great Waves. Great Waves. And Great Waves is a story about a sumo wrestler way back when called Onami, which means great waves. And Onami was challenged in his wrestling practice, I guess, in that when he was practicing on his own, he could defeat anybody. practicing, not in a tournament, not in a sumo match, but in a tournament, he could defeat anybody, even his teachers. But when he went into a tournament, anybody could beat him. Even his own students beat Onami. So Onami happened on to a Zen master who said, Onami brought his problems to the Zen master and said, here's what's happening. What can I do? The Zen master said, sit in silence and feel the waves. Feel what it feels like to be a wave. And so the Zen teacher went off to bed, and Onami stayed in the temple and just sat there and started feeling the waves. And at first his mind was really distracted, going all over the place. And then he started to settle in, and he started to feel the gentle rise and fall of the waves. And then the waves kind of started to submerge the temple and everything in the temple, becoming bigger and stronger. And in the morning, when dawn came, there was just the still, peaceful movement of the waves just coming and going. And Onami became the waves, right? And then, of course, that same day he entered the sumo wrestling tournament and won it. And the story says from that day on, he was never defeated again. Onami never was. Lots of takeaways from this story, for sure. But the one that resonated with me most was imagination, the power of imagination, right? Everything starts with imagination. The building that we're in right now started with the imagination of an architect somewhere, and through his imagination, he drew plans, and the plans were handed over to a builder, and the builder created this building that we're in, as well as not as well, and other architects designed other structures that you Zoomers are all in, all arising from imagination. Yeah. Why don't we imagine what we want to become, who we aspire to become? We can bring into existence the person, the being that we want to become if we imagine that person. If we imagine it clearly, consistently, we'll become that person with all of the qualities we aspire to develop. We're kind of coming down the home stretch of our discussion of the Four Noble Truths. And for now, there are so many layers to these different teachings. And I'm sure at some point we'll come back to the Four Noble Truths. But for now, we're going to kind of wrap up our discussion of the Four Noble Truths. And to refresh everyone's memory, the first noble truth, you should know suffering. Number two, you should abandon origins. You should abandon the origins of suffering. Three, you should attain cessation. You should attain cessation from suffering. And four, you should practice the path. Or we modified it a little bit and said, you should practice a path. The path that we talk about in this series, of course, is meditation on the inner body. And we've been talking a lot about the benefits of this practice. And the benefit that we've been focusing on a great deal over the last few classes, the last 2 or 3 classes, is that through meditation on the inner body, by bringing our awareness inside to and actually giving rise to a subtler body, moving beyond the physical body and moving into the inner body, or what's called sometimes the subtle body, conceptual thought ceases. Conceptual thought ceases, and we are in the now. We are in the present moment where there are no problems. Being in the now brings about a cessation to our problems in a remedial way. It remedies them. I'm stressed about something, about a situation that I have invented with my imagination, kind of using my imagination in unhelpful ways, right? Imagine some future scenario. I'm all stressed about it. I'm all worried. I come back to the now in a remedial way, and there is no problem. Altered states. We can also use the now, coming into the now in a preemptive way, keeping that stress because we abide in the now all the time and are in non-conceptual awareness as opposed to our thinking mind. Because we're in that space so much, that stress and the stories that bring about the stress never have an opportunity to arise. It's preemptive. Altered traits. Altered traits are achieved. And as we close here, just back to imagination, something that we've been talking about but kind of before we got into the Four Noble Truths is something that's called a self-referential mode of existence, making ourself the reference point of everything that happens to ourselves in the world. Political uncertainty, how does that affect me? Self is the reference of it. Potential of environmental collapse, disaster, how will that affect me? My car got a car got scratched, and it happens to be my car. It's important because it's my car. The car next to my car got scratched. Don't care so much about that. Self-referential. Self-referential. Self is the reference point. When others become the reference point of what we do in everything, including our spiritual practice, especially our spiritual practice, we go to a next level. What if the benefits of being in the now enable us to be more present when we are with others? Totally present, totally focused, totally empathetic, in a state of perfect, complete empathy with whomever is in front of us in that moment. As it is right now, maybe we try to avoid people, especially people who we don't like to talk with that much. What if through this practice, through the Four Noble Truths, through imagination, imagining ourselves becoming someone who can be fully present in the now with perfect empathy with who's ever in front of us in that moment? That's called love, I think. That's called love, real love. It's whatever the opposite of self-referential is. That's what that is. That's what that practice is. So maybe we can pull an onami from Zen stories and imagine maybe it's that sort of being present with whoever is in front of us, being whatever they need to be, which is usually just being a good listener, right? Being completely present, being an accomplished listener, having empathy, maybe compassion if that's what's called for. Imagine that, and we will become that. And thus we will become more loving. Our path will become other focused and about love, wishing for another's happiness. From 101 Zen Stories. Great stuff. You guys have a blessed day. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye, Jeff.
Bye-bye, Tina. Bye, David. Bye, Paulo.